And we're back for another episode of the Drum Iowa Network with our dear friend, Ashley Kay.
Hello, hello.
How you feeling, Ashley?
I'm feeling so good.
All right.
It's so good to be back.
It is. It's good to have you back. It's good to have you back. We hung out last time with Jalen and Mr. Sherman Wise. We had a really good episode with those guys. A lot of good fun, a lot of good conversation, but we're happy to have you back with us this week.
Thank you.
All right. We have a very special guest that we'll talk about here in a minute. But before we get to our special guest, I just want to talk to our friends out in the Drum Iowa world about some of the cool things coming up this weekend. This weekend, we will be in Marshalltown for our drumming and yoga experience in the morning from 8:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. So if you are in the Marshalltown area, feel free to stop out. We'd love to have you. These are free will donation and events. No tickets are necessary. And even if you don't bring anything out, it's super cool. We'd love to have you out. On that evening, we will be in Marshalltown from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. where we'll be having our community drum circle and fire. The event in Marshalltown got a little bit of rain, but they still had a good, healthy crop of people that came out and hung out, and we had a good time. I ended up putting my tent up, so I had a precursor to Proceeds Fest down in Marshalltown a couple weeks ago. That was nice. So lots of fun. If you're down in the Marshalltown area, feel free to stop out. We'd love to have you out. Then next week will be our flagship event here in Waterloo, Black Hawk County, Drum and Dance on the Cedar.
Which happens to be the event that we first connected a year ago, which seems crazy.
Absolutely. It doesn't even seem like that long ago, right?
I know.
It seems like it was just yesterday. So yes, our flagship event here in Black Hawk County in Waterloo on the Cedar River at the Waterloo Amphitheater. Danny Eastman from Aya Dance Meditation, 6 to 8 p.m. The moves are going to be going strong. The vibe is going to be strong. So if you are in Black Hawk County, or even if you're not in Black Hawk County, but you're curious as to what all the fuss is about, come on out and see for yourself. Oh, Ashley, let's talk about some of the things that are going on with you. You got some events coming up.
I do. I've really been enjoying partnering with the Cedar Valley Arboretum and Botanic Gardens. Just a beautiful location. And we've got another one coming up August 15th. And we're going to do somatic yoga and meditation, super peaceful, blissful out in the shade garden. I've got the summer issue of the Heal and Rise magazine.
Before you get to that, let me jump in. Before you get to that, going back to the Arboretum, I can never pronounce that
Arboretum,
yeah. Arboretum. I was talking to Jalen on the first episode, and we were just kind of talking about how I've never been out there before prior to your experience. Now, I understand that you've moved the location of your event to a different part of the Arboretum?
Yeah, the first one that we did was in the Rose Garden.
Okay. And I think that was the one that I attended, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, yep. And then as it has heated up in the summer, we've moved over to by the shade garden. So you'll walk along. There's a whole path of daylilies, like hundreds of varieties of daylilies that are all in bloom. So gorgeous. And then there's a nice little grassy area near the hostas. And the whole gardens itself is just such a serene little like hidden gem of the Cedar Valley.
How did you learn about the Arboretum?
Man, we found it for something that we brought our kiddo. There's a children's garden as well there with a little hobbit house, and they have some events. And I think I went to an event where we took our daughter back when she was a toddler.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it just kind of came back around of like, oh yeah, remember that place we haven't been to in a long time? And then connected with the great people there who just such good people, a lot of volunteers and keeping that place alive and vibrant. Yeah.
I was always curious because I don't know many people that go out there just on a whim. So I was curious as to how you learned about it. And
it's seeking really cool. out too. I wanted an outdoor location if possible this summer. You know, I've done some in studio, which I just love, but when the weather's decent, there's such a good, mix to the nature therapy and our own healing work. So, yeah.
All right. So we have a really wonderful guest.
We sure do.
Would you like to do the honors and talk a little bit about our guest that's coming up today?
Well, Heather is one of the most beautiful souls that I've had the pleasure of meeting. She has a wealth of knowledge in the plant and herbal remedy world. And I had the pleasure of toying in her garden recently as well. And gosh, it's just a lot of fun to learn what you can discover and what you can do with the plants that are already all around you.
She taught me about plantain salve that she gave to me. and I use it a couple times. And it's funny because my grandmothers and all those folks, they use a lot of salves, but
sure.
I never personally use it. So when she said, yeah, I have a plantain salve, I was like, okay, all right. Name rings a bell, but I've never tried it before. Good stuff. She definitely knows her stuff, and she's going to come on a little later on in the show, talk to us about all of the wonderful things that she's going to talk to us a little bit about, all of these wonderful herbs that are around us that most of us don't know about, and how we can be using these things to benefit us in our everyday lives. And this is something that I'm genuinely interested in for myself because, I'm a child of the 70s, and I grew up on preservatives and processed foods. And, I'm definitely interested in living a longer and healthier life. So, I know for a fact Heather's got some gems to drop today.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, drum friends, just a couple of more cool events coming up later on this month. We will be August 3rd. We will be up in Decorah for our drumming at Bill Baker Park event. So if you are in the Decorah area, Lime Springs, all of our folks up there at the Healing Shack, all our friends up there, be sure to drop down to Decorah.
Such a beautiful spot.
I love it up there. I do. I really do. Every time I go up, I have a genuine time, and, it's a good place to be. All right. So with that, how about we take a break, and then when we come back, we'll bring our guest hosts in, and we can get some of this good knowledge when it comes to herbs and remedies and how to live good and clean and all that good stuff from our good friend Heather. All right. You guys stay tuned. Don't move that dial, and catch you in a minute. And we're back for the second part of the Drum Iowa podcast with our dear friend Ashley Kay and our special guest, Miss Heather.
Hey.
We finally got you here.
Yes. So good to be here.
Yes. How you feeling?
I'm doing good.
That's good.
Yes.
How's the summertime treating you so far?
It's been pretty good. Except for
Okay.
those darn mosquitoes. But
That's something, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're vicious this year.
Vicious.
They are vicious this year. I don't know what it is. I think it might have had a lot to do with the rain.
Oh, and that's,
Maybe. I mean,
that's
I'm not
a hard balance there. It's like it's great to have the rain, but then a little too much, and
Then you have
and
all
karate
the,
chops and
right?
at 'em.
I found myself like brushing them off of my dogs as I was
I
coming
bet.
back in. I felt so bad for them, but then I didn't feel bad for them because the mosquitoes can't really get past the
Their
fur.
and
So,
their
so
skin. So
yeah. So just yes, the bugs are definitely a trip if you're not in this part of Iowa. I'm pretty sure it's this way along all of the rivers though, because the rivers have been high.
It sounds
Yeah.
like it. Yep.
All right, so we finally got you in. You do a lot. You do a lot in terms of growing things and teaching other people about growing things and teaching other people about the benefits of the things that not only you grow, that a lot of other people grow too.
Yep.
And I have to say, when I first met you, it was at one of our drumming events. And then just kind of getting to know you more, I've come to understand that you're probably one of the most naturalist people I know.
Yeah, a little bit. I have my moments where
Okay.
I'm not, but yes, I've definitely the last 5 or 6 years I've kind of really become interested in nature and everything about nature and the gifts that she gives us,
Yeah.
right? That are just out there for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you grow a lot.
I do. I've been gardening probably for about 20 years, but I did it kind of just, the tomato plant, the pepper plants, and it's just been probably the last 3 or 4 years that I've really expanded my garden and starting new things, growing garlic and just things that I hadn't tried before. And
Got
just
it.
getting out there and getting barefoot into the ground and trying things. And I'm definitely no expert, but I try and also share my failures also because they're learning experience as well and share them with everybody. So
I've seen quite a few of your videos, and you really go into depth when it comes to explaining to people, okay, you don't want to eat this. You probably should be careful with that, and you'll find this in your,
yes.
which is very informative for me because I'm a greenhorn. I don't know much. I'll be out here eating poison ivy and not even knowing it's
Don't do
poison
that.
ivy.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't just eat any mushrooms. So yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
no mushrooms.
Yeah. Well, certain ones you can, but just don't start doing it willy-nilly.
I got you. So we're here in Northeast Iowa. For those of you who don't know, what's popular in our area right now, this time of the year, that's good for us?
So elderberries are popping right now. They aren't ripe yet. I actually have some that I planted in my yard, and they're starting to come on. But you can actually about a month ago, a couple weeks ago, the elderberry flowers were on, and that's actually a good medicinal. But the elderberries, I think most everybody now, or a lot of people know about elderberry for flu and cold and our immune system. So that's one that's actually out in the wild right now that you can be found on a lot of the hiking trails and that. So that's something. I know there's a lot of mushrooms popping with all of this rain. We have what's called yellow oyster mushrooms that are not native. They're actually considered an invasive, but they're popping out everywhere and they're edible. As you said, I always put a disclaimer out. Don't just go and eat anything. Just do some research. That's kind of how I started to learn to do that. Also, just be mindful. There's lots of people out foraging. Don't take everything in one spot. Be very mindful of taking just what you need and can use, because we want to make sure that it can come back every year, as well as that other people can enjoy that.
So you've been quite a few places doing what you do. Here in Iowa, do we have an issue with over foraging or people taking more than they need?
I have not seen that, but I know it can happen. Ramps, for example, are basically like a wild leek, kind of like onion that's out there, and that's something that can get foraged super, like over foraged easily. It takes years and years for it to keep growing and expanding. I have not personally seen it being over foraged yet, but I know there are a lot of areas in the U.S. and with the popularity of foraging, it can definitely be an issue if people aren't mindful of it.
For folks like myself who are city slickers and who get out into nature sparingly, I get out a bit, but not like a lot of folks. What are some of the things that people tend to really hunt for this time of the year?
Oh my gosh. Like I said, the elderberries, mushrooms, there's pheasantback mushrooms. I love stinging. It's a little past its prime right now, but the stinging nettle seeds are coming out. Those are a little, like, I'm not saying it more advanced, but they're not something you probably just go out and forage right away. Trying to think what other items are out there.
Now, is this the same stinging nettle that if you brush by,
yes, definitely. It'll give you an ouch. The interesting thing about that is actually stinging nettle actual stinging is great for arthritis and inflammation in that. And I've actually done it when I've had pains in my legs. I've actually flogged with the stinging nettle, which sounds super painful, but it's amazing. First, it takes your mind off of it. Sure. Then there's properties in the stinging nettle that actually help with that. Yeah. So, but you got to be careful of it. It will definitely, it does what it says. So, yep. There's actually another called wood nettle that is even more prolific here, and that actually is super delicious. I eat both of them. I saute them. But I've never seen that in other parts of the country where it's called this wood nettle. It's very similar, but a little bit different and a little different taste. So yeah, so it's pretty cool what's out there for us.
No kidding.
Super cool. You gave me a salve once, and it was a plantain salve.
Correct. Yeah.
How did you make that? So
just to verify with everybody, there's plantain, which we have the one that looks like a banana, but this is actually plantain, the plant. And it's mainly in like walkway areas where you're at, where it's disturbed. So a lot of the hiking trails have it just along the edges. But basically what you take is I usually like to dry it a little bit and then just steep it. Let it infuse with oil. I actually use coconut oil. You could do olive oil, lots of different types of oils out there that you can use, but I basically let it sit for about 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks?
Yes. You can speed up the process though, and you can put it in like either a crock pot or a hot water bath and heat up the oil and do a quick infusion that way. It's not going to be quite as potent, but it will definitely still have the properties. I was just talking to Ashley about the mosquitoes, and plantain is excellent for that. So if after you get a bug bite, it doesn't stop them, but once you get it, if you put some on it, it will actually reduce the pain and then also reduce the swelling quicker.
Gotcha.
It's great for cuts, scrapes. Trying to think what else. There's so many different. Even stings, even stinging nettle. You can actually, if you're out and you get stung by stinging nettle, you actually just take the leaf, chew it up a little bit in your mouth, and kind of put it on the bite or the sting.
I put a little on one of my dogs once.
Awesome. Yeah.
It was really, he had a little scrape and it worked well for him. Usually I use antibiotic ointment, but Natural is good. So it was sitting there. I was like, let's give it a shot.
I didn't know that. I do know a lot of plants are usable on pets too.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, he did all right. Yeah, he did all right.
Heather, I think a growing amount of people who are getting curious again about some of those home remedies. We're kind of going back to that connection with Mother Earth and noticing that there's limitations and a lot of side effects with some pharmaceuticals that we might have other options, right? Will you tell me a bit more about what got you started, more than just gardening?
Funny enough, actually in my 20s, I actually read Clan of the Cave Bear, like a lot of probably women back in that day and age. And I actually really resonated and just really loved the part of it that had about the herbals. And
wait a minute, we got to go back to Clan of the Cave Bear. We can't start talking about these herbal remedies and real quick for me and the other people who are watching this. What is the Clan of the Cave Bear?
It's a book by, I can't remember her name now, which I should. I haven't read them in years. But Clan of the Cave Bear is basically a series that starts out with back about like caveman and this woman that gets displaced from her tribe and gets adopted by a new tribe, and how she integrates back into it, and just how, you know, it's like I said, back in the Cro-Magnon days. I mean, don't quote me on that one. It is, but there's
definitely add that to my reading list.
Yes,
for sure.
It's good. There's the first book is the best, I think. And so fast forward to I'm lost track now, about 8 or 9 years ago, and I started having really bad health problems, and so I started trying to do mainstream medicine. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but nobody could give me answers. So I started kind of delving into things myself, and just kind of started going down that natural path. And then the love for herbs kind of came back up, and then going out in nature. And I've just become more in touch with nature and going out. And I kind of basically just say I'm all things nature. I'm not saying I am, we all are, but reconnecting with it in whatever way people can.
I think so often we forget that nature isn't something that's separate from us, right?
It is nature. We are part of it. We're all part of it.
So it's only natural that that's something that feels, feels good.
So that was kind of now then recently just started, gardening more, learning more, going out foraging, because that came popular. So I started going and foraging, I call myself, it sounds weird, a dabbler, but I dabble in a little bit of everything. I don't know. I'm not just an herbalist necessarily, because that's, takes years and years. I have a very small scope of what I know, but I try to learn something, not every day, but all the time, going out. So that's kind of how it started, and it just keeps growing, like I said, in going into different areas, gardening, foraging, just nature hikes, whatever I can do. And that's just something on my Facebook and on my channel that it's get out in nature however you can. Even if you're in an apartment and all you have is a little patio and you can put a little pot out there and you do that, or go to the local park and take your shoes off, whatever you can do to connect yourself back in with nature. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that not only are you experiencing that yourself and being such a humble learner as you go, right? But sharing, those little bits of knowledge that you find along the way in order to inspire others.
And then I get feedback as well and get information.
It's such a community.
It really is.
The more you get into the nature world, the more you recognize that, we're all a part of it.
Yes, definitely.
So for the city slicker who doesn't get out much, but is interested in doing more, earthy things and dealing with herbs in a more intentional way, how would you recommend for someone like that to begin that journey?
Well, the internet is an amazing place.
Okay.
There's also a lot of incorrect information out there, I'll just say. Even going to your local library, there's herbal books out there. I say everybody knows dandelion. I know we've talked about this, but like dandelion that grows in your yard is an amazing way to get introduced into the herbal. Just things that are in your own yard. Just go out into your own backyard if you have it, or your park. That being said, make sure if you do start to take anything that you don't take it from anywhere that's been sprayed or used pesticide. That is super huge. But just kind of be aware of what's in your own surrounding. Just start to get what's in your area.
Dandelion. So
I was just about to ask that. Great minds think alike. So okay, yes, dandelion, please.
a lot of the herbs that we're told are, weeds are actually good for us. Dandelion is amazing for our liver, our kidneys, our digestive. You can eat every part of it. The flower isn't, you can eat it definitely in salads and that. It's great in infusion, but the root, I love to roast the root and use it like a coffee substitute.
All right.
You can actually eat the root. It's great as a prebiotic, so it kind of helps your digestion. But I will say, for liver aspect of it is huge. Most of us, I'm not any kind of judgment, but we all have sluggish, or a large majority have sluggish livers. And this is a great way to get that cleansing the blood and getting our system cleansed out. Then also the leaves are amazing. Also, you can just eat them in a salad. They're considered what's called a bitter, and it's great for getting our digestion going. Like I said, just try a little bit. I don't know if I could eat a whole salad of dandelion. It's pretty bitter, but if you mix it in, once again, I don't want to keep saying it, but definitely just make sure wherever you're sourcing it from is a clean area. So,
For sure.
And that one I would say, you could probably over harvest a little bit on that one. That's why that isn't a big deal as long as you leave one or two. It's something that you can definitely take
all
as much
this
as
from
you want.
something we've been told to get rid of,
Exactly.
right?
And that's a lot of the weeds. And I understand why, because it is, noxious or whatever, and it can be annoying. But now I love seeing people's yards with dandelions. I'm like, yes, I love
Absolutely.
it. So,
So do your research, folks. Dandelion, there's a lot of really cool properties when it comes to dandelion. You just taught me something here today in terms of dandelion. How much would a person need to get the benefits that we're looking for digestive issues?
You can put it in, like if you have a daily salad, I have a daily salad, I can put that in there. It's something that you aren't going to see immediate benefits.
Absolutely.
Like something like we're talking about stinging nettle or whatever. It's an overall continual thing that you kind of help your, like you just don't eat dandelion one day and your liver's better. It's kind of something you incorporate into your diet.
Which is kind of a reminder too of we are in this society of kind of instant fix, right? We want the instant Band-Aid.
I'm totally like that. I get it.
And yet some of these remedies, it's like reminding us again to slow down.
That's right.
And see that gradual progress that really is fulfilling to our bodies.
Exactly.
So cool.
I agree.
Absolutely. All right. Shifting gears a little bit. Heather, all of our guests who come on the show, we like for people to kind of drop some gems, some things that work well for them to help us throughout our days, because we're all different and we're all structured different. What works for me may not work for you, may not work for him or her. So talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you do to get through the day, some of your coping skills, some of your go-to things.
Sure. Not to be repetitive, nature. Basically, however I can get into nature that day. Sometimes it's just a walk around my neighborhood, in the concrete jungle, you know what I mean? It might not be, or going out to my backyard, taking my shoes off, my socks off, and just getting my feet in the ground, doing grounding. Even if you're not into that, it just feels great, even if you're not into understanding the benefits of grounding. And then as far as going out even onto local trails, look at your local, there was trails that I've lived here for 23 years and I've had no idea the trail system that we have until recently. So just kind of research on the internet and see what is close to you, even in big places like Chicago or whatever. There's cool places like the Arboretum. I had discovered that like 15 years ago, and just find these little gems and get out however you can, and just be still, just be there, listen to the birds and the animals and the people even in the park, or however you're going to do that. That just is something calming about that silence. So,
and to that point, in this part of the state, I found at least that a lot of our natural areas do go underused in comparison to a lot of other places in the country and even the state. Like I was talking to a friend of mine about, like in Lane County, those folks utilize their parks to the max. Like you go out on the weekend and you see people all over the trails, it's packed. Whereas here in Black Hawk County, I bump into people on the trails very rarely.
Yes.
And I think
nice, but it's also discouraging sometimes.
It is
Want
discouraging.
People to be out there and encouraging.
And there are so many spots.
Oh my gosh.
Beyond the
Petoskey
trails.
alone that we
Yes.
have here is just this huge, vast trail that I knew one part of it, and it's like goes for miles and miles.
Check it out in the spring with the bluebells.
And that's in Cedar Falls?
No, actually, that's in Waterloo. It's kind of off of Ridgeway and 63. It kind of goes that whole length. There's actually a Martin Lake, which they are up doing beautiful things with. They have just added a fishing pier. They've added like rocks to sit on, and that's actually one of the, if you're just looking for something tame and not super wild, that's a beautiful spot, is to go to Martin Lake or Kotoski Lake.
Okay.
Are the two different things they call that. So.
And a lot of the trails too that were underwater recently have the waters receded.
Yeah,
Of
yeah.
course it fluctuates,
Yeah.
but you can
Got to be careful of that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the water, there were some reports in the news about the waters having some bacteria that could be pretty harmful to us right now. So those of you at home, be careful with the waterways. They're not too safe to be in right now. So just give it a little while.
There's a website you can check that they update those.
There is a website. There is definitely a website.
Yeah, we take
Yep.
kids swimming in whatever spot we're thinking of.
All right. Shifting gears a little bit, moving into August, Proceeds Fest.
Oh, it's going to be so great.
And I know the both of you will be there. And I think last year we hung out.
You did.
And then I really got a glimpse into your work there for the first time. That was, I think we met before, but I got a really good glimpse into your work at Proceeds Fest. So yeah, it's funny how things are just kind of looping around full circle. August is going to be a big month.
And speaking of circle, we will be circling up at Proceeds Fest for a drum circle.
Oh,
around
absolutely.
fire.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping to get some song going this time around too, ma'am.
All right.
So you gotta, let's think about some stuff,
A little bit, didn't you?
I
when
did
you
a
were
little
there?
bit last week.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
Absolutely. So for those of you who have no clue as to what we're talking about the second annual Proceeds Fest. I'm happy to say second annual. Hopefully we can say third, fourth, fifth, sixth. But the Proceeds Festival is a local festival taking place here in Black Hawk County at Hickory Hills. The compliments of our dear friend Danny Eastman from Aya Dance. This is the second go around. We're going to be out in full swing this time around. You don't have to be there for the whole weekend. You can come for the day. Very reasonably priced. It's not to make a ton of money. People are just out to get the good vibes in and feel good about each other's company. So if you are looking for something to do in August, I don't have my paper in front of me. What's the date? August?
Shoot. Eight. Oh, no. It is the 9th through the 11th because we've got
The 9th through the 11th. Yes, you are absolutely right. The 9th through the 11th.
Yeah.
And thank you. Lifesaver. August 9th through the 11th. That's a Friday through Sunday. And we're going to have yoga, drum circle, fire.
I get to guide another energy healing meditation.
Absolutely.
Of course, Aya Dance.
Of course, Aya Dance. That's the headlining event. And above all, just kind of fraternizing with folks who are of similar spirit and mind and just want to kind of take a load off and get away from the everyday grind, because in our individual lives, we go through a lot. So it's really important for us to be able to take it down a notch with other folks. Yeah.
So I showed up and I wasn't able to camp the whole weekend. And so I was like, oh, everybody's already in their group. That, I show up and there's like a meal spread out. Someone immediately is like, oh, here, help yourself.
Yeah.
Just so welcoming. And I feel like we're all kind of hungry for that, right? Is that sense of
And just the
community.
community for sure.
Yeah.
Very easygoing.
Yep.
Yeah. Very
Like I said,
easygoing.
You can camp the whole weekend or just show up for a little bit that your schedule allows.
That's right. The canoes are out there. There was some kayaking. I had a really good time. That was actually my first time. I'm not really a water dweller in that sense, canoes and boats, but I took the canoe out, had a good time on that. The lake is really still. It's a really safe body of water to be out there canoeing and kayaking on. The weather was perfect last year. And we'll be at the group camp. The group camp is reserved for our event, and it's a nice spread out area that crosses over a couple of trails. The trail system out there at Hickory Hill is amazing. You know what I want to do? Yes.
Like bison,
Yeah, the bison, for sure.
Yep.
birds. Yeah.
But you know what I'm thinking about, they have some archery targets out there.
Oh, that's
So I was thinking about, maybe doing that this year, get on my Robin Hood
fun.
and see.
I actually do a little bit of that. Yep.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
she's
You're a
that.
jack of all trades.
No, I don't hunt. I just do the target.
The
practice.
targeting.
That's kind of where I would go out and do
Okay.
it. Yep.
That's some good stuff. I think I will probably be interested in doing the hunting part of it. You know, I have a couple friends that,
Manly.
yeah, you know, catch dinner. They say those deer steaks last for a good long time. That venison is good stuff. I'm trying to stay away from the hard proteins, so I'm doing more beans and as much as I can. We grew up on steaks and that stuff.
You forget you can get protein other ways. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. I bought some really nice bean burgers.
Ooh, good.
A couple. I had to eat about 4 of them. Granted. Okay. I had to eat about 4 of them to get that. Feel like I was full. Yeah, satiated. But in terms of taste, they tasted real good.
They're definitely, you're never going to replace meat, right? But
Right.
It's just getting that taste. I make like a sweet potato black bean burger too, and it's good. So, yeah.
That do sound good. And the sweet potato fries too.
Those are so good.
Yeah, those are really good. My son, we were out at, Texas Roadhouse, and he, you know how you get the steak and potatoes? He got a steak and a sweet potato.
Yes.
And that was the first time to ever see that. I was like, oh my goodness, that's the thing. And he had the
honey, the
yeah,
honey butter that goes
the
on
butter
it,
on
the
there.
cinnamon, yep.
I almost took that off of his plate. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. 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 Well, hey, thanks for popping in, Heather. We really
for
appreciate
having
you.
me.
You're an asset to this community.
I love it. So are both of you. I'm so excited to be part of
Yeah.
this community. So,
And thank you for being a day one supporter of the Drum Iowa Project.
of course,
We appreciate you every
I
time
need to thank. It's amazing.
we appreciate you. And Ashley, we will be back.
Yes.
I think the next time we'll be back with Danny, I think that's the plan. So Danny, if you're watching this, you're next up, ma'am. So we'll have you on the couch here in a minute talking about Prestige Fest and how you came up with the idea. So that's something that you can be thinking about, Miss Danny, if you're watching this. How did this formulate in your brain? So that's something that we want to know, because it's some good stuff. All right. So hey, I'm not going to belabor this. Thank you, ladies, for coming out. I know you guys got families you got to get back to. And thank you all for watching the show. And we'll be back next time. Be easy.